Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook. That's Coach Dub. Coach, you've been covering this recruitment like nobody else, and that's the recruitment four-star edge Jamarion Carlton. He has flipped from Baylor to Texas, and, we were almost wondering when this was going to happen because he showed up for Vanderbilt, and then he shows up for Arkansas, and we kind of had some stuff ready on Inside Texas, and he shows up for A&M again, and finally, last night, you're on Inside Texas late, writing about how Texas is looking good. Then you put in the pick for Carlton to make the flip. We weren't 100% sure of the time frame just because he kept making these visits. Obviously, signing day is this Wednesday. But here we are I got to get my days right, on Saturday, and Carlton has now joined Texas 2026 class.
Yeah, look, what a roller coaster commitment. I guess he needed 3 visits to be assured that Texas was home. But honestly, Texas never went away in this recruitment. Him and Coach Alan Clark built a relationship that dates back, to him his sophomore year when Coach Clark was at Ohio State. A relationship that has continued to grow as Carlton has continued to grow himself. And he's up to like 265. And so, like I said, this relationship, it grew. And then, with so much uncertainty with Baylor, with Aranda leaving, even though they came out with a vote of confidence, said they were signing for another year or whatever the case, Texas always seemed like home for Carlton, like the place he was supposed to end up and wanted to be from the beginning. Even though, things got sidetracked and he ended up committing to Baylor. It felt like this was always Texas recruitment to lose, even when he was committed to Baylor. Like I said, they hung around the rim, they stayed close to this kid, and ultimately was able to win him over and get him to stay home, as he called it.
And what we've got on the screen here is his highlights from this season. And you can tell, if you've seen his junior highlights before, he's not looking as built as he is in these clips, but still doing, some of the stuff on the edge that we saw. And I think we always tried to caution against, like, wait a second, I know he's wearing the same number, and I know he's playing for Temple, and it's blue front, white back. And it was like, but it's not Taquan Graham. And he still isn't. I don't think he is as tall as Taquan was. Correct me if I'm wrong. But now it's kind of looking like he's doing a lot of the similar things that Taquan Graham was doing back in the day for not only Temple but Texas.
Yeah, look, I hadn't seen him for a while until I went to the Temple versus Duncanville playoff game, and I was like, oh my gosh, his lower body, he's gotten a lot thicker. And I was like, he's kind of looking like TQ is what we call Taquan. And everybody joked. I was like, no, he's starting to play like him too. Starting to fill out that frame, that 6'4.5", 6'5" frame, and he may edge out Taquan in height. I think he has more length in the arms than Taquan does wingspan. But he looks like him. He plays like him. He's got strength. He's added a lot to his game. He's not just in like a tall, skinny kid out there trying to play defensive end. He's added on a ton of muscle and weight, and you can kind of see it in film. He's kept his explosion too. You can see it on the basketball court when he's driving to the hole, dunking the basketball too. Like, he is super athletic for a guy his size. And, depending on how big he gets, some people say maybe he can slide into a 3-tech. You don't know. Like I say, he's 260, 265 now. But if he keeps that explosion, look, he can still stay on the edge like an Ethan Burke. Maybe he can play that buck position for Texas. He can stop the run, but he also can get out there that passer.
Yeah, and it almost seems like Buck and Jack have taken a lot of the same guys. It seems like there's some overlap, and they can put guys on at either spot. Jack seems to be the place they go a little bit bigger. And now you look at this class, he's not going to be a guy who plays, what's the right way of putting this? He's a 4-eye and out guy right now, instead of maybe like a 3 and in guy. And still, when you're running as many fronts as Texas does, that means you can play kind of like what Ethan Burke does and play some inside the tackle's shoulder, but you're still kind of on the edge. Or you can play outside the tackle and play that 5 technique. Or, you get into specialty situations and you're the 1, but you're a pass rusher. So this seems like a very versatile pickup for Texas. And it's so weird because it's like, it seems like he's in between those positions. And I don't mean that in a bad way, to where I don't know whether to throw him in the edge bucket with someone like Richard Wesley, or if you add him to the Corey Wells and James Johnson and Vodney Cleveland crew, a little bit of a different, type of player. I don't think he's exactly like Justice Terry, but maybe they find a similar role for that, where he at this point in his career, or maybe to start, he's 4 and out, and you see where his body goes from there.
That makes a lot of sense. Can you imagine? I know this is reaching back in the timeline here when the Giants had like 4 defensive ends on the field and they all had different kind of sizes. Maybe Texas could do something like that. In the future, you got so many body types that they're big enough. They're big enough to still stop the run, but they can still get after the quarterback as well. So it's like, Carlton. I don't know. He kind of fits. I wouldn't call him a tweener. I just want to see how his body shapes once he gets to Texas here in I guess a couple of weeks because he graduates early. But I know he's playing basketball right now, so he may slim down, running up and down the court. So that may help him, slim down a little bit. But I want to see what his body looks like after the first spring at Texas. If they want to put more weight on him, or if they want to just slim him up and tone him down so that he does stay at edge. That'd be key to see. But he could play like a Justice Terry. I know Lance Jackson came in. I don't know how big he was when he first got here, but he slimmed down a ton. That's been there. So, once they get in here and get in a weight program and nutrition and everything, we'll see how his body grows. But man, I think he was like he got to be at least 235, maybe 240. He's put on 20 pounds. And so I want to see which way he goes.
If he's that size, I thought you were saying he may be like 260. But if he's
no. I'm saying prior, when the last time I seen him, like before maybe spring, so less than a year, he's put on 20 pounds. But that's right. A lot to put on.
Man, and number 11, Daquan Graham did the same thing. Before we keep going, got to show some love to our sponsor. That's Roback. There's only one way to describe Roback. Best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roback has released so many items within their new licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and Q-zip designs from some of your favorite schools like Texas, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Roback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. Both are super comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that's made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. Roback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars like Quinn Ewers. They are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. Use the code TEXAS20 on Roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's RHOBACK.com and 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with Texas20. As I kind of try to switch things up and pull up the class commitment list, I think this bumps Texas up to the number 7 class. I think they were just inside the top 10 at the start of the week. And you're going to see a mad dash to the finish for so many of these teams. But just to talk about this recruitment, I think you and I both, when we first learned of Jamarion, I know, and you've got Temple connections. I remember meeting him at a junior day and thinking, everybody loves junior day. Everybody loves camps. And he even camped at Texas, which is something that Texas is getting to the stage where you have to do, even if you're a top 100 prospect. He camped at Texas, and you could tell, big fan of the Longhorns. And we get to, crunch time in the recruitment, and we know Baylor got active in the NIL game last year. Texas has always been active, but Baylor really tried to let him know that, hey, not only can you make something similar at Baylor than you would at Texas, but you can be a figure here at Baylor. And yes, I know that Temple and Waco is about the same distance as Temple and Austin, but Waco is different than Austin. And Temple is it's a 254 area code. It's not a 512. They consider themselves to be in that region of the state. And that really resonated at the time. And that's what put Baylor over the top. What was it? I guess in July when that commitment dropped. But Texas never went away. Texas stayed with it. And the school that he really liked to start ends up winning out in the end. And of course, there's one guy you got to get a lot of credit to on that staff, and not only maintaining that connection, but getting that connection across the line in the end.
Yeah, you know what? And with Baylor, selling him on big fish in a small pond, you can come here and be the guy. Not only can we maybe can be competitive in NIL, you can come here and be the man, right? You be the man of the class, help us build this thing, turn it around. It worked for the short time that it did. But like I said, I think his heart was always in Austin, Texas, and with Coach Clark, who he trusts. And it's big. If you know anything about, Jamarion, it's about who can he trust, who he wants to be around to be developed in. Getting to talk to him, and his family, it's about a 40-year decision. can I see myself living in Waco after I graduate and done with football? Or do I want to live in Austin if I had to, outside of football? Austin's a better city. Education-wise, Austin provides a lot of different things that he wants to major in. So Texas provides a lot of plus outside of football for Jamarion and his family. I think it's really, really important to say that, because he really wants to focus on academics, because he wants to be more than just a football player. And I think that the city of Austin provides so many opportunities outside of football for him that all the pieces just added up. And like you said, kudos to Coach Clark, man. He did a great job in this recruitment that dates back years. And so you never know how these things turn out when you meet a kid, when you're recruiting, when you're building relationships with them and getting to the core of knowing who the kid is and who his family is. But it really paid dividends here, because he's, like I said, he stuck around the entire time, but it's somebody that he can trust. And when you trust a coach, you probably go to that coach and say, hey, I'll give him all. I'll run through a wall for this kind of guy, because I know he has my back. I know he trusts me. And so I think that's exactly what you're going to get out of this kid, man. He's playing for a guy that he trusts completely and that he's ready to go to war with.
You see T and Longhorn Aranda may be fired soon. Yeah, probably at the beginning of next year if things don't go very well, because they've already said he's coming back. But that feeds into the who's going to coach me thing. And if you're going to Texas, you've got a really good idea that it's going to be Steve Sarkisian as the head coach, and then Pete Kwiatkowski. And you know what? Things may change. I'm not, saying this, but I'm not saying this is going to happen, I should say. But, Alan Clark's been a very fast riser throughout his career. And if another team comes in and says, you know what, we're going to give you a promotion, you understand that. That's what happened with Blake Gideon in Georgia Tech. So if something happens to where Alan Clark's not even here, in the second or third year of Carlton's career at Texas, well, you're still in the same system. You're still in a system that you understand, is going to stick around, that you fit in. And that's just as valuable, that coordinator continuity, all the different stuff on that aspect, in addition to, being close to home and being able to fill a big need for this class. I think, like you said, I think we'll find out where his body's going to take him. And I know Rivals has him classified as a defensive lineman. But if this is, if you have a two-man class at Jack of Jamarion Carlton and Richard Anderson, who's a 5-star, and then you add it to James Johnson, Vodney Cleveland, Corey Wells, all those guys, I don't think you really need to go get one in the portal unless you get some really weird, attrition at that spot. Like you're in a great position at this position. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of football. Brain hadn't been on too much.
Yeah,
you're in a great position at this position, especially when you add Carlton. So you broke it down over on Inside Texas. If you want to get more information, including more of Coach's breakdown, that Black Friday promo we've been running, it is still going. So go use that link in our description, sign up, get 50% off an annual membership. We're running that through the end of the weekend. So go check us out. It's that first link in our description. It is also the QR code that you see up there on the top left corner of your screen. Come join us as National Signing Day gets closer and closer and closer, and it'll be here before we know it on Wednesday. So, Coach, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.